Beginner's Guide, Drone Flying Tips. My background, I've been flying for about 20 years. 3 years have been with drones. When I started 20 years ago, they didn't have electrical motors, they had gas motors. So I had to do everything with gas motors. What you need to do starting out when you first get a quad is break in the motors, especially for brush motors. You have to run it at a low speed for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and 4 minutes, and then you can fly it. And it's best to break them in because these brush motors don't last very long. Make sure that when you first start flying that the props spin freely, that there's no resistance to the props, so that you don't have a bad motor or the gears are bad. Start indoors, then move to outdoors. The reason why I say start indoors is when you go outdoors, the wind becomes an enemy and a problem. So the best thing to do is start indoors. And the thing that I like to start with to tell beginners is to get this CX-10D. And the reason why I say the D model is you don't have to worry about altitude. So for beginners, the biggest problem that they have is trying to maintain altitude and flying the quad. With the CX-10D, you don't have to worry about altitude. You just get it to the height you need, and then you fly it around. Then go to, like, a SEMA X11 is probably a good second quad that you have. I would recommend flying over grass. The reason why I say that is that these quadcopters are virtually indestructible if you're flying over grass. If you're flying over concrete, you can do some real damage to them. So try to fly over grass if you can. Something that I like to do is, when I get a new quad, is that I take the battery terminals and I paint them, and I also glue them. The reason why I paint them is that I have old eyes, and I want to make sure that I get the polarity correct. And the reason why I glue them is you tend to pull them out by the wires, so if you glue them to the connector, you don't have to worry about pulling them out by the wires. Battery care. Battery care is very important. When I first started this hobby, I was getting batteries that would swell up, and that's not good for the batteries. They didn't last very long because of that. So what I had to do was get a decent battery charger. So now that my batteries don't swell up anymore because I have a decent battery charger. And I will do a review on the battery charger that I have. I mostly fly with one cell LiFos, and I have a one cell charger that I use, hobby grade charger that I use. Let the motors cool down between flights. When you fly a quad and the battery gets low, let it land, let it cool down for at least 5 to 10 minutes before you fly it again. And that will help with the motor longevity. Fast forward flying. Once you get proficient at flying these, you can move the aileron stick all the way forward and just use the rudder stick to just turn left and right. And you don't have to worry about orientation because you're always moving forward with that. Try FPV. FPV is a lot of fun. I have FPV here, and I started indoors and then I moved to outdoors, and indoors was a lot of fun. I would go and look at every nook and cranny of the house, and I would open the windows and fly out one window and in another window, and it was a lot of fun. So if you're going to fly FPV, start indoors and then move to outdoors. Bank turning. When you get the quad, the best thing to do is to learn how to bank turn. What I mean by bank turn is that you use the rudder and the aileron elevator stick to do your turns. You do a little bit of both, and that is bank turning. Lost orientation. when the quad flies out far and you lose what's front and what's back, the best thing to do is just drop it, let it land, and go and retrieve it. Don't try to, if you lose orientation, don't try and bring it back, because you'll just lose the quad. It will just fly further away, the wind will take it, and it'll fly further away. When you get up high, there's a trick you can do that when it's moving away from you, you can give it left, and if it's moving left, or you can give it forward, and if it's moving to the left, just give it a little bit of yaw backwards and it will come back towards you. If it's moving right when you give it forward, just give it a little bit of yaw right and it will spin and move towards you. That's long distance flying. If the quad is far away and you lose orientation. Don't fly when the wind is greater than 10 miles an hour. It's just not fun. The wind is your enemy when you're outdoors, so try to fly when the wind is less than 10 miles an hour. Get a Devo 7. The Devo 7 is a hobby grade transmitter that works with 90% of the quads that you'll buy. It's nice to have a transmitter that's a hobby grade transmitter that when you fly your quads, that you just use one transmitter. You have to worry about batteries and all that other stuff that goes with it. You just use one transmitter, you set it up, and you can set the rates in a Devo 7 where you can set it to be real docile or real aggressive. When the battery gets low, fly it back to you and fly it backwards. And what that will do, that will improve your piloting skills. If you get it close to you and turn it around and fly it backwards, your controls are all backwards. So you learn how to fly in a backwards mode, and that will improve your flying skills. Once you get proficient, after you fly a year or two, then you can get into acro mode and learn how to fly in acro mode. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section, and thanks for watching.